Isabella took our son to her ex's show. Every time I called, she declined. She brushed me off, saying she was busy, then turned around and posted a picture on her social feed with her ex that made them look like a perfect family of three. Meanwhile, I was at home, accidentally overdosing on medication and nearly dying. After surviving that, I put the signed divorce papers in front of her. She didn't believe I was serious, scoffing from her high horse, "You think you can survive without me?" I insisted she sign. She and our son watched me with cold eyes, waiting for me to hit rock bottom and come crawling back. But they never expected that I would just keep walking, and never once look back. After I asked Isabella for a divorce, she started coming home less and less. The photo of her at Nick's show was trending online while I was at home counting out the pills my doctor had prescribed. Mrs. Diaz, my caregiver, kept wanting to say something but held back. Finally, just before she left for the day, she couldn't help herself. "Mr. Davis, a little spat between a couple is one thing, but if you go too far, you'll just push her away for good." I put the organized pill bottles aside, thanked her, and saw her out. I opened a bottle of whiskey, but the more I drank, the clearer my head became. I tried calling Isabella a few times, but she ignored them all, just sending me a 2-word text to get rid of me. Busy. When the whiskey was gone, I staggered upstairs. On the nightstand was a photo of us from when we were happiest, our smiling faces pressed together. Compared to now, the irony was crushing. I turned the frame face down and went into the bathroom. The warm water enveloped me. My phone, sitting on the edge of the tub, buzzed. I picked it up. It was a news alert. I swiped it away and opened my messaging app, where I saw Isabella had updated her status 10 minutes ago. The picture was a big group photo, her parents and Nick's parents. In the front row, Isabella was on the right, Nick on the left, and in the middle stood our son, Aiden. The little boy was holding both their hands, beaming at the camera. They looked like the real family. The phone slipped from my hand and slowly sank to the bottom of the tub. I leaned my head back, the world spinning around me, my stomach burning like fire. I thought about the 10 years we'd spent together, from being the couple everyone envied to being complete strangers. I used to be like Nick, shining on a stage. The first 2 years after Aiden was born were the happiest of my life. When he turned 2, I went back to work. My parents were driving me to the airport when we were in a massive car crash. My life plummeted from its peak. I lost both my parents and was left disabled. Lying in that hospital bed, hearing I might never walk again, I was so hopeless I lost the will to live. It was too much pain. During the day, I could force a smile and tell people who came to comfort me that I was lucky to be alive, that surviving was all that mattered. But when night fell, I couldn't stop wondering if I'd done something terrible in my past life to deserve this. After everything happened, some people pitied me, while others kicked me while I was down. Some said I was an opportunist who'd married young to lock Isabella down, and was now rushing my comeback because I was terrified of being abandoned. Others lamented that my parents had worked so hard to raise me, only to be dragged to their deaths by my ambition. The words of comfort, the passive-aggressive jabs behind my back, they all landed in my heart and grew like a snowball, threatening to crush what little will to live I had left. During one dressing change, the pain was so bad my face twisted into a mask. I gripped the bed rail, howling, my voice choked with sobs as I told Isabella the first couldn't take it anymore. She held me, her eyes red, stroking my back like I was a child. While I was in the hospital, Isabella's career was taking off. But she dropped everything without a second thought to be by my side, day and night. She said money could always be earned, but there was only one of me. In that period, she was my rock, my everything, my entire support system. I naively thought that if I could just survive this, everything would be okay. Survive the wounds healing, survive the endless surgeries, survive the risk of paralysis, survive physical therapy, only to face a broken life and a broken body. All my past glory had vanished like a bubble. I passed out in the bathtub. The next time I opened my eyes, it was to the sound of knocking. I was still slumped in the tub, but the water had drained out at some point. The floor was covered in vomit, mixed with undissolved pills. The air reeked. My hands, stiff and cold, gripped the edge of the tub as I slowly climbed out. I grabbed a robe and glanced in the mirror, seeing a haggard figure staring back. Damp hair, a deathly pale face, lifeless eyes. Dried vomit still clung to the corner of my mouth. Only when I left the bathroom did I realize it was already morning. The sun high in the sky. The knocking on the door had turned into pounding. Aiden was yelling, "Dad, get up." I turned the knob and he slipped in wearing his little backpack. "Dad, hurry up. I'm going to be late." He stopped mid-sentence, covering his nose and mouth as he backed away. He looked me up and down, his brow furrowed. "You're so gross. What's that smell in here? Dad, you're home all day doing nothing. The least you could do is clean up." I forced a tight smile and stepped back. "Sorry." Noticing how pale I was, Aiden looked away. "Forget it. You don't have to come to my field day." I wanted to say okay, but a wave of nausea shot up my throat. I opened my mouth and threw up as everything went black. The last thing I saw before I collapsed was him pressed against the wall, a look of terror on his face. I was rushed to the emergency room for taking a large dose of pills with alcohol. I didn't truly wake up until 3 days later. The hospital room was quiet. I was alone. Mrs. Diaz came to bring me food, sitting by my bed with tears streaming down her face. "No matter what, you shouldn't hurt yourself like this. Do you have any idea how close you were? They almost couldn't save you." My voice was hoarse as I tried to explain. "I drank too much. I wasn't trying to kill myself." But she didn't believe me, and she wasn't the only one. No one believed me, including Isabella. They all thought it was just another one of my desperate attempts to get attention by threatening to die. Isabella picked me up when I was discharged. Aiden was in the back seat. The way he looked at me, the way he spoke, was cautious. "Dad, Mom bought your favorite cake." I glanced at the beautiful cake box in the back seat and said thank you. Isabella was on the phone. Her profile was beautiful but cold, her long fingers tapping idly on the steering wheel. As I adjusted my seat, she hung up, took the seatbelt from my hand, and clicked it into place. For a moment we were very close, and I instinctively leaned back. She noticed, paused, and looked up at me. I turned to look out the window. That night, I discovered Isabella had moved back into the master bedroom. I came out of the shower to find her making the bed. "You're sleeping here?" "Yeah." "Then I'll go to the guest room." Before I could leave, Isabella grabbed my arm. Her tone was uncharacteristically gentle. "Don't be difficult. We had been sleeping in separate rooms for over 6 months. Natural physical intimacy felt like a distant memory. We lay in the same bed, each on our own side. I woke up in the middle of the night, thirsty. Her side of the bed was empty. I got up for some water. Through the slightly open balcony door, I heard Isabella's voice on the phone. I hadn't heard her speak in such a gentle tone, with a hint of a smile, in a very long time. "Yeah, you can just handle it. It's fine. We can talk about it later." Her tone shifted slightly. "He got out of the hospital today. He's doing okay. Don't worry." I drank my water and went back to bed. A few moments later, Isabella came back, and her side of the bed dipped. Just as I was drifting off, an arm wrapped around my waist. I jolted awake, shot up, and pushed her away. Isabella turned on the bedside lamp and sat up. She had that familiar look again, annoyance mixed with strained patience. "What?" I rubbed my forehead, not saying a word. Isabella closed her eyes and asked in a resigned voice, "I'm already trying so hard to meet all your demands. What is it now that you're not happy with?" My nails dug into my palms. I felt utterly humiliated. The day after I got home, Isabella's mother came to see me, along with another relative. Everyone was perfectly polite. Mrs. Brendan, impeccably dressed and made up, treated me like her own son in front of others, fussing over me with eyes full of concern. Later, I heard her sighing to the relative, "You're so lucky. We, on the other hand, are basically housing a fragile little god. It's a shame. If only it had been Nick. His family and background are so much better. It wasn't meant to be. Who knows what the future holds." I was reading the divorce agreement my lawyer had drafted. I gripped my phone tighter and pretended I hadn't heard a thing. A week later, I had found a new apartment, packed my bags, and prepared the divorce papers. I reminded Isabella to come home early. It was pouring rain that day. I waited at home from 5 until almost 10. Isabella walked in reeking of alcohol. Seeing me on the sofa, she froze for a second, as if just remembering I'd asked her to be home early. She glanced at the time and apologized. Something came up. I forgot. As long as you're back. I handed her the papers. Take a look. If it's all good, just sign it. She took the folder, and her eyes widened when she saw the words divorce agreement. You're serious? I am. She tossed the papers on the table and asked mockingly, You think you can survive without me? You don't have to worry about that. She stared at me, her anger rising, and let out a cold laugh. Playing these push and pull games gets old. Are you sure you want to do this? I'm sure. Fine. Her face went cold. She snatched a pen from the table and quickly signed her name, then shoved the agreement back at me. As you wish. Don't regret it. Isabella stood up, then suddenly remembered our son. What about Aiden? What are your plans for him? I said, let's ask him. Give him a choice too. In the settlement, I only took what was rightfully mine and didn't ask for a penny more. If she wanted custody of our son, I wouldn't fight it. If she didn't, I would take him. But the Brendans would probably never let me have him. I had raised Aiden for his first 2 years, and we were incredibly close. After he turned 2, the car accident happened. I lost my parents, had a mental breakdown, and was in such a terrible state that for a long time, I couldn't even bear to see him. It wasn't until I started physical therapy that I finally let him visit. But the child I hadn't seen in so long looked at me with a mix of unfamiliarity and fear. During the long recovery that followed, my mental and emotional state made it impossible for me to raise him. So Aiden was mostly raised by the Brendans and his grandparents. He was 7 now. They had raised him well, but he and I weren't close. There was a distance between us, tinged with a hint of disdain. Even if I wanted to take him, he might not want to go. Sure enough, when Aiden found out we were really getting divorced, he was shocked and confused, though not entirely unable to accept it. I knelt down and asked him, Do you want to come with Dad? Aiden was silent, his little hands clenched into fists at his sides. He said, Dad, I'll wait for you to come back. What if I don't come back? He was certain. You'll come back. When we got to the courthouse, Isabella parked the car but didn't unlock the doors. She was giving me one last chance to back out. Think it over before you get out. 2 words from me. Open it. As we walked out of the courthouse, she didn't ask where I was going, and I didn't say. Isabella got straight into her car and sped away, leaving me in her dust. After the divorce, I moved to the west side of the city. I decided to divorce Isabella not because I had gotten over things. Quite the opposite. I had to leave her because I was completely stuck. I was afraid if we stayed together any longer, one day I'd lose control and drag her down to hell with me. When I started having extreme thoughts, I sought help from a therapist. Her final advice was to try setting myself free. Leave Isabella, leave that house and give myself some time. Live each day as if it were my last. Do whatever came to mind. After trying all sorts of things, both meaningful and meaningless, then I could make a decision about this unremarkable life. Isabella wasn't worth me completely destroying myself. It was the 10th day since I'd left her, and the 10th day I'd spent just looking down from my window. The rain had stopped, and the sun was out. The streets were slowly filling with people again. I pushed open my door and, for the first time in days, tried to go outside. Let them stare. I couldn't hear the whispers and pointing behind my back anyway. No one here knew the old Leo Davis. No one would compare the man I was with the man I am now. If I dropped dead one day, people would just say that a cripple died. That the man with the limp was gone. 3 months flew by. During that time, I forced myself to try all kinds of new challenges. I was almost cruel to myself, pushing myself into crowds, accepting the stares, the curious questions, the ambiguous looks. Whenever I felt like breaking down, I'd hide at home and drink. When I was drunk, it felt like 2 people were screaming at each other in my head. One said, Just give up if you can't take it anymore. The other one jumped up and down, yelling, "Why should you give up? You've been through so much pain and hardship already. You've come this far, so why give up now?" In my second month of being divorced, I went for a follow-up appointment. The doctor praised me, saying I was doing much better. We talked for a long time. She said I wasn't afraid of people's strange looks. I was just like Isabella, unable to accept my own imperfections. In the third month, I got to know my next-door neighbor, Mrs. Peterson. She was retired and had 2 grown children. Her daughter owned a bakery at the entrance to our complex. Mrs. Peterson had an amazing attitude and a great sense of humor. We talked about my leg. She said, "So one's bad, but don't you have another good one?" When we talked about my career regrets, she said, "Most of life isn't spent on the stage, it's spent in the audience. If you can't be a performer, be a spectator." As I ate the dumplings she'd made, I smiled until my eyes filled with tears. Once we were friends, she dragged me to the supermarket for the 8 p.m. sale, shoving through the crowd and yelling at me to hurry up. She got me a part-time job at her daughter's bakery, and when business was good, she'd reward me with a little cake. She even pulled me into the community dance group, saying, "You can help coach us old ladies." I helped them with their moves and sometimes even choreographed routines. Somehow, I'd blended into the neighborhood senior squad. Before, I was the one they whispered about. Now, I sat with them and listened to them whisper about other people. Suddenly, the phrase "all men are created equal" took on a whole new meaning. The dance group started getting more official, even getting matching uniforms. The well-connected Mrs. Peterson found a young guy to help take some nice videos and photos. While he was shooting, Mrs. Peterson suddenly pointed at me. "Hey, get a few shots of Leo, too." The others chimed in. I looked at the dark lens of the camera and instinctively waved my hands, refusing. A pair of hands rested on my shoulders, stopping me from backing away. Mrs. Peterson smiled at me. "Just strike a couple of poses. You have a great physique, the pictures will look amazing." "Yeah, they will. Don't be nervous." I was very nervous. My throat was dry. It felt like my first time on stage all over again. My heart pounded, and my head felt a little dizzy. I couldn't position my body naturally. They all noticed, but no one rushed me. The young photographer looked at the pictures in his camera, thought for a moment, and asked, "Can we get some background action?" The music started, and the ladies began dancing with their fans. With them as my backdrop, I stretched my body and went through a few simple, basic dance poses. The shutter clicked away, followed by a chorus of praise. "Great, great, that's fantastic. Look more natural, and you'll be even more handsome. This guy is handsome enough to be a star." A smile crept onto my lips, and I instinctively looked at the camera. Just then, the music stopped, and a familiar voice called out, "Dad." I turned toward the sound and saw Aiden, standing next to Isabella and Nick. Maybe it was because we hadn't seen each other in over 3 months, but Aiden was a little emotional. He ran over and threw himself into my arms, calling me Dad with a familiar affection. I stroked his head, my heart melting. Nick, carrying a bag, smiled at Isabella. "Why don't we go for a walk? Let Aiden spend some time with his dad." Isabella's gaze was fixed on me. I nodded in acknowledgement and led Aiden away. During my time away from home, the only contact I'd had with my son was through video calls. I never asked about Isabella, and Aiden, probably under instructions, never mentioned her either. I took him to the bakery at the entrance of the complex. On the way, he kept looking around at the neighborhood. When we sat down inside, he couldn't hold it in any longer. "Dad, why did you have to come here?" Before I could answer, he added disdainfully, "It's so remote here, and not nearly as nice as our neighborhood." I pushed a slice of cake toward him and handed him a fork. "Nice isn't the most important thing. What's important is that Dad is happy living here." He swung his little feet and took a bite of cake. "Is it good?" Aiden nodded, then took another bite. "It's delicious." He looked at me with his clear eyes, a hopeful expression on his face. "Dad, when are you coming home?" I wiped a smear of cream from his face with a napkin and told him gently, "Dad and Mom are divorced. We all have our own lives now." His swinging feet stopped. I continued, if you miss me, you can come stay with me. Aiden was clearly unhappy with this answer. He pursed his lips, his face clouding over. I don't want to. Don't want what? For his parents to be divorced or to come live with me. I decided to change the subject and asked him about his life recently. Aiden jabbed at the cake with his fork, ruining the delicate dessert. He said, I've been having so much fun. Uncle Nick comes to play with me all the time. A lump formed in my throat. I forced a smile. Is that so? Aiden glanced at me and went on. We went to the amusement park and the water park. He buys me toys and he even bought me a little bunny to take care of. Uncle Nick is a great cook. His fried pork ribs are amazing. He can sing and draw and dance. Do you like him? Aiden nodded enthusiastically, as if showing off a new toy. He's handsome and gentle, and he'll buy me anything I want. Not like you, Dad. You're so cheap. He took another bite of cake, his legs swinging again. If you don't come home, I'm going to let Uncle Nick live with us. He said it like a child threatening, if you don't play with me, I'll just go play with someone else. I stroked his head and told him, you can let whoever you want live there. Dad isn't coming back. Aiden's eyes widened in shock. Never coming back? Then who will make me my teddy bear cookies? You can come to my place and have them. Aiden put down his fork and frowned. So Miss Chun will have to help me get dressed every morning from now on? And no one has read me a bedtime story in a long time. What about when I get sick? Mom has to work. I said, you can learn to dress yourself. Mom can read you bedtime stories, and if you get sick, Dad will come take care of you. Aiden fell silent, then suddenly shoved the cake away in anger. This is disgusting. I've never had cake this bad. I hate this place. It looks so old and cheap. Use your words. Don't throw a tantrum. He pushed me hard. I'm not throwing a tantrum. I'm telling the truth. Aiden grabbed his watch and called his mom. I don't want to be with Dad anymore. Mom, come get me. Isabella told him to wait, that she'd be right there. But Aiden couldn't wait. He tried to run outside, but I stopped him. So he sat on the sofa, his little face stubborn, deliberately ignoring me. He'd been spoiled by his grandparents. Whenever things didn't go his way, he'd sulk and give the silent treatment, waiting for someone to coax him back into a good mood. I sighed internally and said patiently, the things Dad does for you, other people can do too. I'm not coming back, but you can always come see me. But he said, if you don't come back, then I don't want you. I was suddenly speechless, looking at my son, not knowing what to say. Aiden looked down, tapping his toes on the floor. His eyes drifted to my leg under my pants. Suddenly, he said, you're more like the ugly duckling. I think Uncle Nick is the real prince. I was stunned. Felt like a needle had been stabbed straight through my chest. Even breathing hurt. When Isabella and Nick came in, Aiden jumped up and ran to Nick, burying his face in his arms. They looked like a family of three, and I was the evil wizard who'd been mean to the child. I stayed seated. Nick glanced in my direction, then led Aiden out of the shop. The bakery was empty at this hour, the owner was busy in the back. Isabella walked up to me. What did you say to him? When I didn't answer, her tone softened. He was so happy on the way here. Was he? I forced a smile. Well, I'm sorry I made him unhappy. Isabella's brow furrowed. He's just a child. You should be more patient and not lose your temper with him. I rubbed my temples and stood up, exhausted. Then maybe you should bring him to see me less often. I'm not cut out to be a good father. Isabella snapped, you're his father. If I don't bring him to see you, who am I supposed to take him to see? I raised my eyes and stared at her silently. After a moment, she stiffly changed the subject. How have you been doing here? Fine. Fine? She gave a slight smirk. I saw you were having your picture taken. When did you become willing to do things like that again? After I left you. Besides dying, I'm willing to try anything. Isabella's face instantly darkened. I started to walk away, but she stepped in front of me, blocking my path. Aiden has been thinking about you this whole time. Her tone was harsh. You've had your fun. It's time to make arrangements to come home and spend time with him. I pointed at Nick outside and asked, amused, do you two need company? Should I come back and be the other man? Nick and it doesn't matter. I don't care. I walked around her and out the door. Nick and Aiden were still outside. When he saw me, the boy immediately turned his head and hid behind Nick. I didn't break my stride, walking past them without a second glance. Nick suddenly called out, "Mr. Davis, if you're still interested in working in dance, I can connect you with some resources." I stopped and turned back, smiling at him. With all that spare time, you'd be better off finding a few more married women to worry about. Watching his face freeze gave me a sense of satisfaction. As I walked away, tears started streaming down my face. When Aiden was little, he knew his dad had a leg that didn't look good and that he walked funny. When I went to his kindergarten for events, the other kids would crowd around and ask questions. Whenever I was sad, he would hug me and say, "Dad, your leg isn't ugly. You're a prince." But now he was telling me I was like the ugly duckling. After that unpleasant meeting, Aiden stopped even video calling me. To everyone else, he was a praised little gentleman. But at home, especially with me, he'd let his temper fly. Even though I did my best to teach him, in the end, he was more like the Brendans in every way. The young man who took the photos that day was named Alex. He was a photographer and a short-form video blogger. He had asked me if he could use my photos as part of a video. Alex showed me his account, which had hundreds of thousands of followers. He mostly posted about his daily life with his girlfriend. His girlfriend's name was Jenna. She'd been in a car accident a year ago and was still in a wheelchair, working hard on her recovery. We talked for a long time and I eventually agreed to his request. When the video was finished, Alex sent me the link. In the latter half of the group montage, I saw myself on screen. My body was stretched out, sunlight hitting my fingertips, looking back at the camera with a slight smile on my face. Moving forward wasn't as hard as I thought. 2 weeks later, Alex posted another video. I clicked on the notification. The young couple on screen was no longer their usual cheerful selves. They looked serious. Jenna sat in her wheelchair, her eyes red and swollen, her voice breaking several times as she recounted what had happened to her. During her rehab at the physical therapy center, she had been sexually assaulted by her primary physician. My ears started ringing. My mind latched onto a few keywords. Crestview Medical Center, Dr. Miles Sutton. Dark memories from my past flooded back. I was pulled back into a terrifying nightmare. Before the accident, I was independent, cheerful, and confident. After the accident left me disabled, I became insecure, sensitive, paranoid, and emotionally unstable. I hid at home, unwilling to see anyone, and often cried for no reason. It wasn't until I saw a doctor that I learned I was suffering from a mental illness. One night, after waking up for what felt like the 100th time, I hid in the bathroom, stifling my sobs. When I came out, Isabella was waiting for me. She was half asleep. She reached out, wiped the tears from my eyes, and casually told me to go back to bed. Less than 2 minutes after we lay down, she was fast asleep. But I tossed and turned, unable to rest. I realized then that my unstable emotions were affecting others. I had lost my parents and barely survived. I didn't want my mental health issues to become another burden for Isabella and her family. So I diligently went to therapy, took my medication, and pushed through physical therapy, hoping to return to a normal life as soon as possible. Isabella was very busy with work back then. My original rehab center was too far, so her family had me transferred to Crestview Medical Center, under the care of an acquaintance of theirs, Dr. Miles Sutton. At the time, Dr. Sutton had a great reputation, and it was hard to get an appointment with him. With his help, my condition improved significantly. Dr. Sutton was kind, gentle, and about my father's age. I quickly came to trust him. In my second month at Crestview, after an acupuncture session, I fell asleep in the recovery room. Dr. Sutton came in alone, opened the door, and slid his hand into my pants. Even today, I can't recall that memory without feeling sick. The first time he molested me, when I realized what was happening, he calmly withdrew his hand and said he was just checking the condition of my leg. He was so nonchalant that I couldn't trust my own judgment. I left the hospital, but I couldn't shake the disgusting feeling of his touch. I was a married man with a child. I wasn't some naive kid. Dr. Sutton's actions had clearly crossed a line, but my trust in him was so established, and we had plenty of physical contact during rehab. I tried to convince myself I was overthinking it, that it was a misunderstanding. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw his cloudy, leering gaze. I was restless day and night, and I began to dread going to the hospital, dreading facing him. After a long struggle, I finally told Isabella the first wanted to switch hospitals. She asked why. I told her Dr. Sutton had done something that made me uncomfortable. Before I could explain further, she rubbed her temples and placated me dismissively. I'm so busy right now. Can you just be good for me? Just hang in there a little longer, for my sake. She didn't even ask what had happened. Looking at her tired face, I swallowed all the words I wanted to say. I was afraid of Dr. Sutton, but I was also afraid of the Brendans frowning at me, as if I was just another massive burden. The second time he molested me, it was in the same therapy room. The moment he slid his hand inside, I woke up, lying frozen on the bed. He noticed, and when I didn't resist, he began to explore more brazenly. I screamed, but he clamped his hand over my mouth. I can't remember the details, only the chaos in the room and countless people holding me back. I grabbed anything I could and threw it at him. He clutched his bleeding forehead, glaring at me from the doorway. He told the onlookers that his patient had a psychotic episode and attacked him. I was hysterical, sobbing and shaking, clutching my caregiver's sleeve, my words a jumbled mess. She seemed to understand, yet not understand. It wasn't until Isabella arrived that I collapsed into her arms. After I calmed down, I shakily told her what happened. Dr. Sutton had assaulted my injured leg, the one with atrophied muscles, covered in ugly scars. For the rest of my life, I will never forget the look of doubt in Isabella's eyes. Her first reaction was disbelief, but I insisted, so Isabella called the police. Dr. Sutton adamantly claimed he was just doing his job and had no idea why I suddenly became so agitated. A doctor with a stellar reputation, a patient with a known mental illness. No one believed me. I had no evidence of what happened in that room. All anyone saw was me having a violent meltdown. Dr. Sutton, with a bandage on his head, looked like a man who had been terribly wronged. He pointed at my leg and mocked me in front of everyone. Even if I had any ideas, I wouldn't go for that leg, would I? All eyes turned to me. In that moment, I felt like a rat in a sewer. Even if I swore on my life, no one would believe me. They judged me, my appearance, my clothes, whether my masculine appeal met the assaulter's standards. Being scrutinized like that felt like being violated all over again. In the end, the whole thing was dropped. Isabella's mother tried to reason with me. Maybe you've been taking too much of your medication and had a hallucination? She analyzed it for me. Maybe you're just being too sensitive? That doctor sees so many patients every day. She urged me. We got Dr. Sutton through a connection. Making a big scene will be bad for everyone. If you really can't let it go, how about we have him apologize to you in private? She reasoned. Isabella's career has been put on hold for you time and time again. Now that things are finally looking up, you come up with this. The door to the room was closed, but in the reflection on the window, I saw a familiar figure standing outside. She heard every word said in that room, but she never opened the door. Everyone wanted me to get better, but no one treated me like a normal person. I cried my heart out, even wishing they had just amputated my leg. I looked it up, asked doctors if it was still possible to have the surgery. Isabella was on a business trip. When the doctor called her, she called me back. Her tone was cold and impatient. I don't remember exactly what she said, only her last words to me. Leo, it's exhausting having to revolve my life around you 24/7. I hung up, dazed. After thinking for a long time, all I could do was tell myself, let it go. Just let it go. It's not like you lost anything. She was right. No one could revolve their life around me. I had nothing left but this family. All that mattered was that Isabella believed me. That's what I told myself. As long as she believed me, she was the only person in the world I had left to rely on. Until one night when we were intimate for the first time in a long while. During foreplay, I couldn't stop thinking about the assault. My body tensed up, and a wave of nausea rolled in my stomach. My eyes burned. I asked her, "Doesn't my leg disgust you?" She kissed me, comforting me. "No, every part of you is handsome." In the heat of the moment, I deliberately guided her hand to the rough, uneven scars on my leg. Isabella, who had been completely into it, suddenly went cold. We looked at each other for a long time. In that instant, a crushing despair washed over me. My suspicion was confirmed. She didn't believe me. From the very beginning, she never believed Dr. Sutton would molest me. It was an ugly truth even she couldn't face. What kind of man would be interested in something so hideous? Every time I tried to overcome my challenges and move forward, I would look down and find Isabella busy trying to cover up my flaws. The person who was always encouraging me was actually less able to accept my imperfections than I was. She loved me, but only the flawless version of me. From that point on, I found it increasingly difficult to be intimate with her. Our relationship plunged into an icy cold war of endless arguments. When I woke up, Jenna's video was trending. The comments section was a battlefield. Some supported her, others accused her of shameless self-promotion. Some mocked Jenna's plain looks and thin, wheelchair-bound body, saying she was delusional to think a doctor would want her. In the video, Jenna described an experience almost identical to mine. Not enough evidence, a complaint to the hospital that led to a promise of an investigation, but no follow-up. They went to the police, only to have Dr. Sutton countersue for defamation. I watched her video over and over, reading the cynical and mocking comments. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Dr. Sutton's invasive, disgusting gaze, his passive-aggressive sneer. "Young man, try not to be so sensitive next time." Couldn't sleep for days. Then I saw that Nick had posted a long message on X. Dr. Sutton was his uncle. He staunchly defended him, writing a 1,000-word essay praising his uncle's medical ethics and character. At the end, he insinuated that the influencer couple was just creating drama, that doctor-patient relationships were already strained, and he hoped people wouldn't break the hearts of good doctors. Nick had become very popular online recently. As a successor in traditional dance, his solid skills and brilliant performances, especially on a recent reality show, had sent his popularity soaring. With him leading the charge, the people attacking Jenna became even more vicious, flooding her comments with vile insults. I contacted Alex. On the phone, he told me they had already filed a police report and were working with a lawyer to gather evidence for a lawsuit. I asked him directly, "Do you believe what your girlfriend is saying?" He paused for a moment, perhaps because he'd heard that question too many times. His voice was incredibly sincere. "Man, please believe Jenna. Doctors saved her life. She respects them more than anyone. We can swear on our lives. We would never, ever slander a dedicated moral doctor for clicks. If a single word is a lie, may we drop dead. If we could have resolved this privately, we would have. But she was assaulted, and I was the only one she could tell. Nobody else believed her. A lot of people are attacking her looks, her body, her job, judging whether she was assaultable. But a victim should never have to meet a certain standard to be believed." By the end, Alex was choking up. "Me just saying I believe her isn't enough. This can't be fixed with just words. She needs an apology. She needs justice." My eyes burned. I told him softly, "Me too. I went through the same thing. If you need it, I'm willing to do whatever I can to help." There was only so much I could do to help Jenna. It had been nearly 2 years. Even if I reported it again now, it wouldn't do much good. But watching the attacks on her, an idea formed in my mind. I could come forward as another victim, to prove she wasn't alone. After a lot of mental preparation, I turned on my phone's camera and started recording from the script I'd written. I recounted my past experiences, sentence by sentence. Some details were fuzzy and required me to dig deep into my memory. The pain was like a dull knife grinding against bone. The assault had destroyed not only my psyche and my self-respect, but also my trust in Isabella's entire family. No one had stood behind me as firmly as Alex was standing behind Jenna. Because Jenna's story was already viral, my video quickly gained traction. Many people came to watch, some demanding the truth, others recognizing me from Alex's videos and mocking me, asking if Jenna and I were teaming up to launch our careers. Some even started rumors that we were part of an agency-led publicity stunt. Among the comments were some particularly sharp ones. I recognize him. I think I saw him at the XX massage parlor. Not only was the comments section a mess, but my DMs were filled with obscene messages. For my own safety, I stayed home. Mrs. Peterson next door was away on vacation. One night, there was a sudden knock on my door. I was drying my hair after a shower. The sound made my heart pound. I stood frozen, not daring to make a sound. When there was no answer, the person outside knocked again, more impatiently this time. I rushed to the table to grab my phone and call the police, just as Isabella's name lit up the screen. When I opened the door, Isabella was standing outside, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Seeing me, she let out a sigh of relief, pushed me inside, and stepped in. She put her hands on my shoulders and looked me up and down. "Why didn't you answer your phone? It's so late. What do you want?" She said, "I came to take you back." I froze. Back where? Home. Where else? She grabbed my hand and tried to pull me out the door. I yanked my hand back. "What is wrong with you showing up here in the middle of the night? I just drove back from out of state. I saw your video." Isabella paused, trying to choose her words carefully. These influencers are complicated. They have teams behind them. Everything they post is for profit. Don't get involved in their business. She looked at me and said, "As for Dr. Sutton, I will get you justice." I couldn't help but laugh. If you'd said that 2 years ago, I probably would have cried in your arms. But now I pointed to the door. "Get out. This has nothing to do with you." "Leo," she said, fighting to control her temper. "There were no flights, no direct trains. You weren't answering your phone. I drove for over 10 hours to get here, and now you're telling me to get out?" Her shirt was wrinkled, her expression exhausted, and a faint stubble shadowed her jaw. I said, "I didn't ask you to come." Isabella froze, a wounded look on her face. She tried to smooth things over. "Don't start a fight with me now, not when you're upset." "Who's fighting? I'm an adult, not a child." I repeated myself. "Leave. We're divorced. Stop bothering me." Isabella laughed, enraged. "Every time I have to coddle you, I feel so pathetic." "Isabella, I can't be the one to always back down first. I never asked you to back down. Not once." Old wounds rushed to the surface and I lost control. "You don't want to leave? Fine. Then tell me, how are you going to get me justice?" She started to speak, but I cut her off. "Back then, your mother said if it was really that bad, we could just have Dr. Sutton apologize to me. If you all really thought he did nothing wrong, why would you want him to apologize? And if you were willing to get an apology, why wouldn't you let me see it through to the end?" Isabella's eyes darted away for a second. "We didn't have enough evidence back then. Pursuing it wouldn't have done you any good. To hell with no good." I slapped her across the face. "You're useless. A coward. Your husband gets assaulted, and you don't do a damn thing." She dodged as she tried to restrain me. "Calm down." Years of resentment and pain erupted. "You all just picked on me because I have no parents, because I have no one to stand up for me." Tears streamed down my face. I broke free, grabbed her by the collar, and slapped her again. "You'll get me justice? Where were you then? Where were you then?" She dodged clumsily as a third slap landed. "Do you know why I couldn't stand you touching me? Because every time you did, it felt as disgusting as being violated by him." Overwhelmed with emotion, I gasped for air, stumbled backward, and leaned against the wall to keep from falling. Isabella reached out as if to steady me, but then hesitated and pulled her hands back. She closed her eyes and slammed her fist on the table, roaring, "I'm not denying what you're saying, but you can't just erase everything I did for you. I had to manage my career, take care of you, and look after my parents. I've had my own struggles these past few years. You never tried to understand." I yelled back, "So you just ignore me being assaulted? So you can cheat on me with a clear conscience?" She was speechless for a moment. "Nick and I aren't together. It's just that he has commercial value right now. Get out." I wiped away my tears and pointed to the door. If you don't leave, I'm calling the cops. After a tense standoff, she turned and left. Before I closed the door, I said, "You didn't used to be this disgusting." All this time, her family and she herself all felt they had done right by me, that they had been more than generous. No other family would tolerate a son-in-law like me. Few wives would sacrifice as much for their husband as she had for me. But from the moment they started seeing me as a burden, we were no longer equals. No one respected me, not even my own child. The buzz around Jenna's story continued to grow. The police investigation would take time, but the online chatter wouldn't stop. I cut back on my internet time and tried to focus on other things. Isabella started coming to my apartment every day. If I didn't let her in, she'd wait downstairs. She would follow me silently when I went shopping or took out the trash. I treated her like she was invisible, but I never expected someone would take pictures of us together and post them online. Many bloggers were riding the wave of this story, even making videos analyzing Jenna and me. A gossip account claimed I was some 18th-tier influencer being kept by a wealthy benefactor. My DMs filled up with more hate mail and disgusting jokes. Isabella stopped bothering me for a few days, but one night she called me drunk. "I just don't get it," she slurred. "What do you even want? Weren't you terrified of being talked about? What good does exposing yourself to the public like this do you? You want an apology? I'm powerful enough now. I can make Dr. Sutton apologize to your face. Is that still not enough?" I replied calmly, "Don't forget to wash your face with your morning piss. Might help you sober up." A few days later, there was a breakthrough. Someone else went to the police. A third victim of Dr. Sutton had come forward. According to Alex, her situation was even more vulnerable than ours. She came from a low-income, single-parent family. She was only able to get rehab at Crestview through a charity foundation, but she ended up suffering the same fate, and her case was far worse than ours. Dr. Sutton had tormented her for over a year. He had a particular fetish, and seeing that she was young and had no one to protect her, he used threats and manipulation against her. The more I heard, the sadder I became, wondering how many others he had hurt. Then, after the rumors about me being a kept man, new rumors started that I had interfered in Isabella and Nick's relationship. It started because of a photo Nick had included in a collection on his ex account, a picture of just the two of them from the day of his concert. That post had trended in the past. This year, Isabella had invested in Nick's show, made a point of attending his performances, and even driven him home late at night several times. Photos of these instances had been circulated by gossip accounts, which referred to her as Nick's mysterious girlfriend. Suddenly, Nick's fans started attacking me, cursing me out. Someone even got my phone number and started harassing me with calls. I had only posted one video, but I had been cast in a dozen different roles. After I got a new number, I received a text that sent a chill down my spine. "Unknown sender. I know where you live. Homewreckers deserve to die." I had to laugh. I get cheated on, and now I'm being called the other man. The audacity! The public outcry was deafening, but Nick's camp was silent. After filing a police report, I set up my phone and faced the camera again. As I sat there, the last 10 years with Isabella flashed before my eyes like a movie. It was too long to tell from the beginning, so I just hit the main points. I posted screenshots of all the attacks I'd received and explained why I was making the video. Isabella cheated. Nick knowingly got involved with a married woman. I showed our divorce certificate. The video set off a firestorm. When I was being slandered, neither of them had said a word. One was a businesswoman who had once built a public persona as a devoted wife, the other was a famous dancer. Eagle-eyed netizens quickly connected the dots. I got divorced on the 12th. On the 14th, Nick was photographed grocery shopping with Isabella and Aiden. Soon after, he posted a 9-photo grid of a meal he'd cooked, with the caption, "Haven't cooked in a while, a bit rusty, but a big thanks to the big one and the little one for cleaning their plates." Digging further back, they found even more. In some old interviews, when asked about his relationship status, Nick had been vague but couldn't hide his happiness. "There's someone I like, and we're giving it a try." At that time, Isabella and I were still married. A rising star's fall from grace is a hot topic. The story blew up. Gossip accounts compiled everything, digging up details from the early days of Isabella's company, when she had frequently spoken in public about her relationship with her husband, from college sweethearts to the wedding, to my accident, and her story of sticking by me through thick and thin. During that time, her public image was that of a responsible, devoted woman. No one knew that while I was trapped at home, unable to even go outside, Isabella was using my pain to build her career and her image. I could never bring myself to watch those interviews. I don't know how many tears I shed in private. She did sacrifice for me, she wasn't lying. But I couldn't stand being put on display and sold by my wife while I was still struggling to get out of my darkest place. I had a bad leg. I had accepted others' kindness, but it felt like I was now a second-class citizen to everyone. The story, now a complete timeline, was explosive. A 10-year relationship, a crippling accident, followed by assault from a corrupt doctor. And the wife who professed her undying love for her husband had cheated on him, with the nephew of the man who had assaulted him. The internet exploded. Nick's image was shattered overnight. Isabella's company accounts were flooded with angry comments. His fans were still trying to argue that the issues should be kept separate. But soon after, the police released a statement announcing that Dr. Sutton was officially under investigation. The night the statement came out, Isabella's mother called me. The usually elegant woman was furious. "What are you doing getting mixed up in this online nonsense? You know you're not supposed to air your dirty laundry in public, and you've spread it all over the internet." I said, "The one with dirty laundry is your daughter. I'm not the one who cheated. I'm not afraid of people knowing." She was livid. "Hasn't Isabella been good enough to you all these years? Are you trying to destroy her with this? Even if you hate her, you have to think about the child. How is Aiden supposed to face his classmates at school?" She accused me. "All the other kids will point at him and whisper about him having a father like you." I sneered. "Good. Maybe it will teach Aiden some proper values. What use do I have for a son who doesn't even care about his own father?" The more I yelled, the more energized I felt. Years of pent-up anger came pouring out. Isabella did a lot for me, and I'm grateful. But I did right by her too. When she was screwed over by a client and almost went under, you all wouldn't give her a dime, and she couldn't get a loan. I used my parents' settlement money to bail her out. When my mental health was at its worst, I couldn't even leave the house. Your daughter was out there telling everyone how her husband became a recluse after a car accident left him with a limp, and how she spent all her time and energy helping me rebuild my confidence. Everyone knew CEO Brendan was so loyal and responsible. On the other end of the line, her mother's voice faltered. "That's all in the past, why bring it up now?" I asked her. She climbed up by stepping on me. "Isn't it only fair that she falls because of me?" There was a long silence on the other end. "Cat got your tongue, Mrs. Brendan?" The voice that came through the receiver was Isabella's. "It's me." I looked out at the pouring rain and took a deep breath. "You heard all that, right? I am so disgusted by you. I hate you now as much as I once loved you." Isabella's voice was hoarse. "I know I let you down in the past, Leo. If you're willing to give me another chance." I cut her off. "I'm not." Dr. Sutton was arrested. Nick's reputation was ruined, and he became a laughingstock online. He deleted the post about his uncle and, under pressure from netizens, wrote a 300-word apology, ending with a message to Jenna and Alex. But people weren't done with him yet. They demanded he apologize to me. Meanwhile, Isabella's company and online store were being boycotted and attacked by users. 3 days later, Isabella opened her own X account and posted an apology letter. She barely mentioned me, only saying she was sorry. As for Nick, he probably had no other explanation. So he admitted that he and Isabella were high school sweethearts who had reconnected after he returned to the country to pursue his career. He claimed they had always been business partners, and that my relationship with Isabella had been broken for a long time, though we hadn't legally divorced. He said it was only after we finalized the divorce that he and Isabella started exploring a relationship. Nick posted something similar, echoing her points. One minute Isabella was asking me for another chance, and the next, seeing that Nick still had commercial value, she didn't want to lose her backup plan and immediately went public with him. The 20-year-old Isabella hadn't known hardship. Her first job was washing dishes in a restaurant kitchen during summer break until her hands were raw and cracked. She saved up $600 over 2 months just to buy me a watch. But the Isabella of today only saw profit and loss. I can accept that people change. But she couldn't stand me, yet she wouldn't let me go. When I refused her touch, she started sleeping in another room. When she realized I was slowly falling out of love with her, she used Nick to provoke me, watching me scramble like a dog terrified of being abandoned. Too bad for them, people aren't stupid. The backlash was even worse. I laid out the timeline, posting the group photo from Isabella's social feed, blurring out the other faces but identifying the key players. I also pointed out that I was the one who insisted on the divorce, and I had a recording of my call with her mother. I even posted the audio of Isabella begging me for another chance, with dates on everything. The man had suffered, the woman wasn't going to get off scot-free. I hope they're locked together forever and don't ruin anyone else's life. This all happened 2 years ago. I was traveling abroad, and a young woman I was with was very curious about my past. "What about the child?" she asked. I thought for a moment. The Brendan family ended up hating me. They cut off all of Aiden's contact with me, got him a new phone number, and transferred him to a new school without telling me. Aiden had a child's instinctual attachment to me, but under his family's influence, he also looked down on me. He thought his dad was a dramatic burden and not nearly as good as his mom. He was my responsibility, but I couldn't fulfill my duties as a father, nor could I expect a child in that environment to be considerate, understanding, and supportive of me. I couldn't force-feed him my version of right and wrong. These conflicts had nothing to do with him in the first place. After Dr. Sutton was sentenced, I received an interview invitation from an old friend from my university days. He had started his own company overseas. If I passed the interview, I'd have to work abroad. The contract was for 5 years. Before I left, I went to see Aiden one last time and asked him if he wanted to come with me. He asked me, "Grandma said you ruined Mom. Is that true?" I stroked his head. "No, Dad didn't do anything wrong." Aiden struggled for a long time before finally taking a step back. He said, "Dad, I don't want to go with you. I had expected this." I gave him a hug and said goodbye. As the car started to move, Aiden kept watching me go. After we'd driven a short distance, he suddenly started chasing the car, running as fast as he could. He fell, scrambled back up, and kept running. His heart-wrenching cries of "Dad" echoed down the street. The driver saw him in the rearview mirror and asked gently, "Should I stop?" I sat in the car, tilted my head back to wipe away my tears, and shook my head. He didn't want to come with me, and I couldn't endure another 10 years of swallowing my pride to raise a child who already had a negative view of me. Our father-son bond was just not meant to be. The young woman pressed, "So what about now? Do you talk much? Did your trashy ex-wife just get to live happily ever after with her new guy?" I took a sip of my coffee. Not exactly. After his scandal, Nick's career in entertainment took a major hit. After being boycotted, he never appeared on another show. He went back to his dance troupe, but I heard his position was eventually taken by a newcomer. A year after it all happened, Isabella's company started going downhill. A series of bad decisions led to a failed project and a cash flow crisis. She was in over her head, desperately trying to stay afloat. At one point, she had the nerve to call me and ask for a loan. I hung up immediately. When I occasionally talked to Aiden, he would tell me glumly that Isabella and Uncle Nick were fighting a lot. Nick wasn't as nice to him anymore. He would even get into huge arguments with Aiden's grandmother, yelling at her so much she ended up in the hospital, cursing out their whole family. Aiden was heartbroken. He couldn't understand how the gentle, handsome Uncle Nick had turned into this person. I didn't comfort him. In that moment, all I could think about was how he used to praise Nick. The sun was about to set, and my story was reaching its end. 6 months ago, Isabella declared bankruptcy. She was in a car accident while trying to dodge creditors. She was taken to the hospital with a broken spine. The doctors said she'll never walk again. The girl slapped her thigh. "Karma's a bitch. What about the homewrecker?" I heard he broke up with her less than a month later. He was in her hospital room, screaming that she was bad luck. Last month, Isabella got drunk and called me from Aiden's phone. She was sobbing, reminiscing about the past, and asking if I could just look back at her one more time. I didn't even listen to the whole thing. I just hung up. As I finished my coffee and got ready to leave, a little boy ran past me and tripped, falling to the ground. I had already stood up and instinctively moved to help him, but then I heard his parents behind me say, "Don't help him. Let him get up on his own." The boy was about to cry, but seeing that no one was coming, he scrambled to his feet. He looked back at his parents and was met with applause and praise. His smile returned, and he started running again. As I walked out of the cafe, I heard a voice in my head, like an echo from the past. "Don't be afraid. If you fall, just get back up. Dust yourself off and keep going. It's no big deal. Leo is the best." I didn't dare turn around. It was my parents' voices. If they're watching from somewhere, I'm sure they'd be happy for me. On the rugged road of life with one bad leg, I finally learned to walk steadily on my own.